So, how does a player, like a guy who averaged a goal or an assist every 138 minutes for a whole decade,
Yeah.
how does he suddenly become this liability?
Right, where his own club's legends are out there demanding he be benched.
Exactly. It's kind of wild. But welcome everyone to another deep dive. We are super glad you're here with us. Today is Tuesday, May 26, 2026, and the football world is experiencing a pretty massive seismic shift right now.
Yeah, it really is the end of an era.
It totally is.
Yeah.
Mohamed Salah has officially played his final game for Liverpool, which, closes this incredible 9-year chapter. And our mission for this deep dive is to sort of, well, we have this massive stack of sources today,
Oh, a mountain of them.
literally ranging from, official club statements and
Yes.
historical Premier League data, all the way to these really fiery pundit columns and super passionate Reddit fan debates.
The Reddit threads are intense.
Oh, they always are. But our goal for you today is to unpack all this information so we can actually understand Salah's true legacy, right? Like the controversy surrounding his exit, and honestly, how on earth a team recovers from losing a legend of this magnitude.
Yeah, and I think to really get into it, we have to start with the immediate context of that final match
Yeah.
because it perfectly captures the tension we're talking about here.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack this because I want to make sure you know this isn't just going to be some dry recitation of stats. It's a really fascinating look at a modern sporting icon. So, the immediate news. Salah concludes his 442-match Liverpool career with a final assist.
And what an assist it was.
Right. It was this brilliant trivela with the outside of his left boot to Curtis Jones against Brentford. Just beautiful. But if you look at the wider context of this final season, it definitely wasn't a fairy tale ending.
No, not at all. The stats show a really steep drop.
Yeah, just 7 goals and 7 assists in 27 Premier League appearances, which, I mean, is a stark contrast to his 47 goal involvements. That's 29 goals and 18 assists just the season prior.
It's a cliff edge, just a massive sudden drop off.
Exactly. And this brought out a lot of tension. The punditry has been harsh. Wayne Rooney actually wrote a column calling Salah, quote, selfish, and suggested he be dropped for the finale entirely.
Yeah, that was a huge talking point.
And then Jamie Carragher, he compared the situation to Cristiano Ronaldo's exit from Manchester United, like that whole bridge-burning ordeal. And obviously, we're just objectively reporting what the sources say here. We're not taking sides on whether Rooney or Carragher are right, but it just shows the friction, right?
Oh, absolutely. The atmosphere got very complicated.
Right, and it kind of reminds me of like a legendary band breaking up, where the lead singer still wants to do these like marathon 20-minute drum solos, but the rest of the band just wants to play acoustic.
That's actually a really good way to put it.
So my question to you is this friction just the natural, kind of unavoidable messiness of a superstar's physical decline, or is it like a clash of tactical egos?
Well, what's fascinating here is that it's actually both, but it's deeply tactical. The very traits that made Salah an all-time great, right?
Yeah.
That unrelenting self-belief, that absolute hunger for goals, those are exactly what create friction when the physical output starts to wane.
Wait, really? How does the hunger cause friction?
Because for years, his physical burst allowed him to execute on that hunger. But take that final assist you mentioned, right? The trivela.
Yeah, the gorgeous outside of the boot pass.
Right. Aesthetically, it's stunning.
Mm-hmm.
But tactically, it's often a symptom of a winger who has lost that explosive first step. 5 years ago, he wouldn't need a triple there. He just uses pure acceleration to beat the defender down the line and cross it normally.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, so when the pace drops, the brain is still operating at a world-class level, but the physical toolkit shrinks, so he has to slow down, cut back, and try something overly complex. And when he forces a shot, because he still believes he can score, but the defender catches him suddenly, that elite hunger gets labeled as selfishness.
Man, that's super insightful. So to understand why he's so relentlessly driven, like even to the point of being called selfish, we actually have to look backward, right, to how his English football journey began.
Yes, the origin story, the Chelsea era.
Right. So we pulled this Sports Illustrated article that features Chelsea legend John Terry. And he talked about when a young Salah, and actually Kevin De Bruyne too, arrived at Chelsea to play under Jose Mourinho.
A notoriously demanding environment.
Very. And Terry essentially said that Salah simply, quote, wasn't ready for the group. The training was just incredibly intense. And Salah only lasted 12 months. He made 19 appearances, scored like 2 goals, and then basically fled to Roma in Italy.
Yeah, it was a very brief stint.
So I look at this and it feels like a brilliant tech innovator who fails spectacularly in this super rigid corporate accounting firm. The structure just didn't fit the genius.
Right.
But does a player actually change their core DNA after a failure like that? Or was Chelsea just the completely wrong ecosystem for his specific type of talent?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's really about the psychological crucible that Mourinho's environment created. Because the data shows Salah always had talent. It wasn't a lack of ability.
Okay.
But Mourinho demanded absolute defensive rigidity from his wingers back then. He wanted soldiers. Salah was this raw attacking maverick. So you have this mismatch of tactical readiness.
Right. You didn't fit the mold.
Exactly. And being rejected in that environment,
Yeah.
being told by veterans like Terry that you aren't ready,
Yeah.
it forged him. It
Sure.
became this psychological catalyst. He realized raw talent wasn't enough, and he developed this relentless, almost machine-like work ethic in Italy.
And that machine is what eventually came back to the Premier League.
Oh, absolutely. And he didn't just come back to participate.
No, he came back to completely dominate, especially in the biggest games. Let's look at some of these numbers from the Premier League stats sources because they're mind-bending.
They really are. They look like typos sometimes.
Seriously, 257 total Liverpool goals. That makes him third all-time behind Ian Rush and Roger Hunt. He averaged a goal or an assist every 138 minutes over 9 years.
Which is just absurd longevity.
And, oh, the fastest Champions League hat-trick ever. 6 minutes and 12 seconds against Rangers. Just insane. But the thing that really stands out is his record against the Premier League's Big Six.
Yes, the ultimate test.
Right. So against the top-tier rivals, City, Arsenal, United, Chelsea, Spurs, 100 appearances, 61 goals, 23 assists. That is a goal contribution every 95 minutes against the best teams in the country.
Oh.
And Manchester United was his ultimate favorite victim with 16 goals.
He absolutely terrorized them.
He really did. And it makes me wonder because, we always see flat track bullies in sports, guys who just pad their stats against lower tier relegation threatened teams. But Salah seemed to feed on top tier pressure. What allows a player to actually get better when the opposing defenders are world class?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's actually a tactical nuance. It's about space.
Okay, how so?
When you play a lower tier team, they sit deep, they pack the penalty box with defenders. There's zero space. But when you play a top-tier team, the Big Six, they want to attack. They push their defensive line high up the pitch.
Ah, leaving all that green grass behind them.
Exactly, which perfectly suited Salah. Because he wasn't a traditional winger running down the sideline to cross. He was an inverted winger. He wanted to make diagonal runs into that empty space behind the defense onto his incredibly lethal left foot.
So the better teams inadvertently played right into his hands.
Precisely. They left the exact space he needed to destroy them.
Wow. Okay, so those staggering numbers naturally have sparked this massive ongoing debate among fans. And we spent a lot of time diving into Reddit to see where the fans are at.
Of the legacy debate.
Yeah, specifically where Salah sits in the pantheon of Premier League greats compared to Arsenal legend Thierry Henry.
That is the big one.
It's huge. So let's lay out the data first. Salah finishes with 287 Premier League goal contributions, 193 goals, 94 assists. That puts him third all-time behind only Alan Shearer and Wayne Rooney.
Elite company.
Very. And he's tied with Henry for the most golden boots, with 4. But the Reddit debate basically splits into 2 camps. You've got the Henry camp, right, who revere him for his, peak dominance and overall influence and elegance.
Right, the aesthetic appeal.
Yeah. And then the Salah camp champions his longevity and just relentless, raw numbers. And it made me think it's like comparing movies.
Okay, I like this.
Right. Like Henry is this beautifully directed, critically acclaimed indie film that completely changes cinema. Everyone remembers how it made them feel.
Yeah, the cultural impacts.
Exactly. And Salah is like this billion-dollar blockbuster franchise that just delivers guaranteed box office hits for a decade straight.
That's a great analogy.
So my question is, have we become so obsessed with raw data and goal contributions that we kind of undervalue the aesthetic and tactical influence a player like Henry had? Or, are Salah's numbers just too big to ignore?
It's funny because the debate often misses a crucial point, which is how the winger position itself fundamentally evolved between their eras.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, one Reddit user actually pointed this out beautifully by bringing Ryan Giggs into the conversation.
Oh, right, the Manchester United legend.
Exactly. Giggs has vastly more assists than Salah, but way fewer goals. Why? Because Giggs played in an era of traditional wide crossers. Your job as a winger was to hug the touchline and feed the central striker.
You're the server, basically.
Right. But Salah defined the modern era of the inverted goal-scoring winger. He was the primary goal threat. cutting inside while the striker, like Firmino, dropped deep to create space.
Ah, so comparing them is almost like comparing apples and oranges.
Exactly. Salah maximized a completely new tactical paradigm. The numbers are staggering because the system was designed for him to score, whereas Henry was a central striker who drifted wide. They dominated in different geometries of the pitch.
That makes so much sense. But regardless of whether you rank him number 1 or number 2 all time, Liverpool's current manager, Arne Slot, is now faced with this just terrifying reality.
Yeah, a massive Salah-sized hole in the starting lineup.
It's huge. We pulled a report from The Independent, and it says Slot has made a Salah replacement his absolute summer priority because the offensive drop-off on the wings this year was severe.
Very severe.
Like, listen to this. Liverpool's 4 main wingers only scored 26 goals combined this season.
Wow.
Yeah, compare that to the previous campaign where Salah scored 34 just on his own, Diaz had 17, Gakpo had 18. It's a massive decline.
It's a completely different team without that output.
Right, and The Independent notes they're heavily linked to RB Leipzig's Jan Diomande. But meanwhile, Jamie Carragher brutally noted on Sky Sports that no one is irreplaceable.
Which is true historically, I suppose.
Yeah, he cited past legends leaving, like Suarez, Owen, and Robbie Fowler, and Liverpool survived. But to me, replacing him feels like trying to swap out the engine of a Formula One car while it's literally still racing on the track.
That's exactly what it is.
Right. So Carrick says they shouldn't look for a superstar, but can you really replace 30 guaranteed goals a season just by committee?
This raises an important question about Slot's tactical dilemma.
Okay.
Because you really can't just plug and play a new 22-year-old winger and expect them to be Mo Salah.
No, the pressure would crush them.
Absolutely. Slot actually admitted that the team relies heavily on the winger-fullback combination. But that ecosystem was heavily disrupted this year. Losing Luis Diaz and dealing with Trent Alexander-Arnold's shifting role, the supply lines were altered.
So it's not just the player missing, it's the whole right side mechanism.
Exactly. Liverpool can't just buy a new player. They have to build a totally new attacking mechanism. If they rely on a single young player to shoulder the burden of replacing a legend, the team will falter. They have to change how the team creates chances organically.
Wow. So it's a full systemic rebuild, not just a transfer target.
Precisely.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, it's just incredible to look back at this journey for you, the listener. From, a Chelsea reject who was told he wasn't ready to an absolute Anfield deity who rewrote the record book.
Breaking all those high lines along the way.
Seriously, and finishing his run as this really complex, intensely driven superstar. It's a fascinating character arc.
It really is. And, it leaves us with something to think about moving forward.
What's that?
Well, as modern football becomes increasingly data-driven and heavily structured and obsessed with these rigid tactical systems, are we witnessing the end of the era of the autonomous maverick goal scorer? Like, will future tactical systems ever allow another winger the sheer freedom to be as brilliantly, devastatingly selfish as Mohamed Salah was?
Man, that is a fantastic question to mull over. Will the system even allow another Salah to exist? I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We deeply respect your time, and we hope this gave you a whole new perspective on a modern legend. Keep questioning, keep learning, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.